This is the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist and an empowerment coach for women. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Now here is today's episode. Episode 95. Well, sisters, before I dive into today's episode, which I'm truly excited about sharing, this is episode 95, which I can hardly believe. So in 5 more episodes, I will literally have made 100 episodes of the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast. And I'm not including the couple bonuses I did regarding specific things around COVID. But I need your help. I would love for you to go out to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com/100 episode. It's the number 100, then the word episode, and complete 2 questions I have on that little brief survey to help me come up with something to talk about for my 100th episode. I will also have the link in today's show notes as well. So just to really appreciate your support, ongoing support in listening to the podcast, sharing it with other women that you know of. Those of you who have left a review, it's really helpful because it actually gets that out there a little more in iTunes and to be able to get in front of other women as well. So thank you so much for all your ongoing support and help me celebrate my 100th episode by filling out that survey. Okay, here is today's episode. Well, welcome, sisters. Oh my goodness, I am so excited about this upcoming conversation. I was just telling my guest I was kind of doing a girl fanning earlier because I had heard her on another podcast and I read the book that she has written and just so excited that she's going to be on today. So my guest is Marianne Williamson. She is the founder and ringleader of Rockstar Camp for Women. She is based in Portland, Maine. And in the last year and a half, she has graduated over 60 women and 10 brave men through her experiential feminist leadership camp, which gives women the tools they need to sing on stage in a spotlight with a live band and a live audience for one night. As they take these empowering tools off the stage and into their businesses, they expand their impact and their income by sharing their message boldly and having a damn good time doing it. Mm-hmm. She is a certified coactive coach and business mentor for 16 years. She is a certified sound healer and the author of 2 best-selling business books. One is Who the Fuck Am I to Be a Coach? And the other one is Who the Fuck Am I to Be a Rock Star? As a former, quote, starving artist of many years, Marianne Jo's big supernova mission is to redirect financial wealth, power, and influence into the hands of modern-day healers and magic makers. So Marianne Jo, I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. So thank you for being on.
It is my pleasure and my honor to be a part of Soul-Filled Sisterhood.
Well, I would love if you would share with my listeners a little bit about what got you into this path of not just being a coach, but doing it in the way that you're doing it, which is getting women up on stage.
Yeah, it's sort of like a long, winding story, like all of our stories are. But the highlights are that I did my first coaching course through the Coactive Training Institute in 2004. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what coaching was. My brother had done the training and came home all fired up and gave me like a gift certificate and said, listen, my brother and I are very close. He's 3 years older than me. This is what you've been doing your whole life, Meg. You listen to people, you love people, you support people, and you can make a living doing this. Just go to the class. Just go. You have to go. Said, okay, so I'll go. And I thought the training was really intense. I cried a lot. I thought the people in the training were really strange. But at the end of it, I had a profound spiritual knowing. We have those moments. It was a very visceral, embodied. I started sweating and shaking and crying. And all I could say was, this is very important work. Mm-hmm. And I knew from that weekend on that this was the work I would be doing for the rest of my life in one way or another, or one way or dozens of others, which is truly how it's been. So since that time, I've had individual clients. I've worked with artists, teenagers, CEOs. I brought coaching into a high-end salon. That was a beautiful disaster from which I learned a lot. I brought coaching into a hospital here in Portland, Maine, a hospital system. I've worked with bands. I've worked with teachers. And ultimately, when Trump was elected, I, like many people, had a profound awakening, like, oh, wow, okay, this is serious. This is urgent. I have been asleep in my little privilege bubble or something. And I don't know about you, Nicole, but when I get freaked out, I'm an Aries. So I act, I get activated and I start researching and what can I do? What can I do? And I kept in my prayer and meditation, practice. I was getting these very clear messages that I was to write. I was time to write. And I didn't know what I would be writing about. But the next day on Facebook, I saw this ad that came through. Are you feeling called to write a book that makes a difference? And I went to that Facebook ad and I really loved the messaging of the woman who was running the program, which is called the Author Incubator. And that's the program I wrote my 2 books through.
Oh, wow.
So if any of you all listening are feeling called to write a book and get it done in 9 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And this is a good time to do it. I think in the quarantine sort of time, it's like, get it done. Anyway, that was a profound, very challenging experience because I had to put my philosophy and my beliefs in writing.
Yeah.
That would be like forevermore.
Yes.
And then I put fuck on the cover.
Yes, you did. Yep.
And that was a very intentional and brilliant marketing choice on my part, but was confronting too, right? What's my grandmother going to think? What are my kids going to think? I've lost opportunities because of it, which I think is why it's such a brilliant idea. Because for every opportunity lost, I've gained about 30 women who have said, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for using real language and writing in such a way that I can really hear you and feel connected to you.
Yeah.
So Rockstar Camp was born out of my experience of coaching and mentoring other people who were new to coaching to build profitable businesses. So the answer that I got, again, through prayer and divine direction, was the best way at this point in your journey, Megan Jo, with Trump as in the highest office in your country, is to support coaches and light workers to make money with their gift so that they can do it full time.
Yeah.
And so that they can impact and help heal and spread more light to more and more clients. Because what happens, and what almost happened to me, but what happens to a lot of our students, I work now at the Coaches Training Institute as a trainer. So I now teach people to be coaches. We don't give them the business skills. So they graduate, and most coaching schools do this. I don't know what they do in therapy school.
It's the same thing. There's no business
thing,
taught.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, great, I have all these skills and tools. I'm ready to help human beings. Yeah. But how do I enroll them?
Yep.
How do I get them to see me, hear me, pay me? And so because we can't sustain ourselves financially, we take a side hustle job, a part-time job, or a full-time job. It gets too exhausting to do both. And then we end up, many, 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 many of our students and light workers in the world give up on it.
Yep.
Because we have to pay our bills.
Right.
So I was leading a very successful mentoring program called The Warrior's Way. And here's where Rockstar Camp was born. And then I'll stop. I told you it's a long story. But
that's all right. All good.
It was for men and women, The Warrior's Way business building course. And I was teaching them a lot, of course, about being, mindset, energetics, but also a lot of just tactics,
Yeah.
like educating them about selling and marketing, which is just a different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And once we have the skill set, our confidence can go up because there's like a knowledge gap. It's not so much, it's definitely in part, right? Like limiting
Right.
beliefs, but it's also, I just don't know how.
Yeah.
So I was teaching these tactics and I watched over and over that the men in my groups would take what I offered and go do it. They'd just go do it.
Yep.
I said, well, you got to market, you got to create awareness, you got to tell people what you're up to. So they'd go start posting on social media. They'd do Facebook Lives. They'd do workshops. They would go knock on doors. They would mention their coaching practice to their cab driver. They would, right?
Yeah.
They just did it.
Uh-huh.
And the women kept coming back with like excuses about why they hadn't done it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exaggerating, right? Because some of my women fucking kicked ass, but
Right.
but it was marked enough for me to say something's going on here. And as we did deeper coaching, what we discovered was for a lot of these women, there was trauma
Mm-hmm.
in the body
Mm-hmm.
around being seen and heard.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah.
Not to mention being seen and heard as a powerful, expert woman standing in her authority and asking for money.
Right.
It's like the antithesis of what we're taught.
Yeah.
So I coached them through it and we had many breakthroughs, but I had down the line, that's what Rockstar Camp was born out of. Can I give women an experience, a visceral, embodied, and it has to be in the body where the trauma lives, of being seen and heard and taking up like massive space.
Yep.
And not only surviving, but enjoying it. And as an introvert, I knew that the best way, the way I had learned how to do that, was my lifelong career as a singer and performer. That's where I learned leadership.
Yeah.
So that's how Rockstar Camp was born. And that's a very long story. But isn't it fascinating?
Well, it is. And I love to, everybody that I talk to, even my own story, right? It's like this long, lovely little path. It's like, yeah, I used to be an accountant, then a business analyst, and then a therapist, and I'm more of a coach. And there's all these twists and turns.
Totally.
But I love too that you just mentioned, because we were talking before I hit record, you're like, yeah, I'm a total introvert too. And there's such a myth about introverts don't do public speaking or don't get up on stage. And I'm like, no. That'd be called social anxiety or just anxiety in general, or fear about being out there. And I love how you help women really get up there on stage. And now you're kind of pivoting due to the pandemic. But at the same time, in your book, I quoted some of the stuff, or I pulled some of the stuff out where you talked about, being on stage as Rockstar, we're wild and unapologetically emotional. And on stage, we have full permission to express ourselves, full permission to be untamed and expressive. And that's such a beautiful thing, because I think as women, we do have a message from our, from the culture, from gender differences, all of that. It's like, you're supposed to be seen or not heard. I know that can start even in childhood.
Right.
But then it's also like, you're just supposed to be this caregiver or be polite all the time, or quote, be nice. And so I call it the good girl mask that comes out. But you forget you're this amazing woman who's no longer that little girl.
That's right.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. And it's really like parts work, I think is what therapists would call it, right? Because the rock star, just to be clear to everyone, no one that comes to this experience is a trained singer.
Correct. Yes.
In fact, most of these women have never sung in front of another person in their life. There's a handful who are like, oh, I used to do that like in college and high school, and I loved it and I miss it and I want to reawaken that.
Yeah.
But most of them have never done it. The thought of doing it terrifies them. And that's why they sign up, because they're geniuses.
Right.
They're like,
right.
I know that my gold is in really taking on the like sharp edge of personal growth and looking at my stuff and doing it in a safe container,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what we do. And you're so right. Like, I mean, I was so right. Those were my words that you quoted. I
Yes.
was so right in that book, Nicole. That in the arts, this is why we love art.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly why I love art. In the arts is the only place on earth these days, unless you're a toddler, and even then it's not really allowed, where you get to be fully expressed, emotional, outrageous,
Yeah.
dramatic, and you are not vilified for it.
Mm-hmm.
You're, celebrate. It's allowed. You have permission. So there's something about the stage and the spotlight and the music,
Mm-hmm.
the performance piece of it and the way we set it up, because they have a live audience and a live band. I mean, we do not fuck around. It is like an audience of 70 people. They have a band of 6 men and they get their hair and makeup done, and then people watch through Facebook. So actually one of the men who went through the camp said there was no way, like, it wasn't what I was doing that made me feel like a rock star. It was the environment that I was in. Like, I'm actually living this experience so that this part of me can be awakened as needed.
Yeah. And that's what you were talking about earlier. It's like creating that safe container where you get to see, it's like, so you've had this trauma or traumas in your past, and it can get stuck in the body for sure. And it's being able to say, and now let's embody this in a healthy way that you can see that this can be really fulfilling and boosting your confidence and moving through things versus, I got to kind of hunker down and stay small or stay hidden. It's like, no, shine brightly, because the world really does need you.
That's right. And shine brightly to me is like, not just be happy.
Right.
Like you said, like you said, we're trained from a very young age that our highest job is to serve others with a smile.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to watch, like, the songs that women pick, because it doesn't have to be rock and roll, by the way. So a lot of women really love to go like into the darker, edgier, like you can wail out and rage as a rock star. You can have you can sob and sing. You can like really go for it. And again, it's like, what an amazing woman. Whereas if we do that in a meeting, we're viewed as hysterical, crazy, and dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's really wild. It's just a really wild planet that we live on.
Well, and part of your program and some, other guests that I've interviewed, all of this is part of why I created this podcast, right? Is bringing all these women together. And I know there are men that support these women as well, but it's beginning to really, not beginning, but continuing the shifting of all of that we're not living so much in the pushing and the shoving and the aggression, that it's like we can be assertive and do it in a way that works for each one of us, whether it's more gentle or more fierce, whatever it is that works in your temperament, whatever it is that works in alignment with your values versus, I need to be this thing over here because I live under the shoulds and stay out of alignment and then exhausted and overwhelmed all the time.
That's right. I told you before we started recording that I just spent the weekend with Marianne Williamson, like the Marianne Williamson. And I'm working with her this year. She's mentoring myself and a handful of other authors. And what I experienced this weekend, I mean, it's what I experience all the time with women, is exactly what you're pointing to, which is we women are very well trained in the masculine. All of us. Yeah. That's what we worship in our culture. So we know how to get things done. We know how to take action. We know, actually, and it's when it's healthy and radiant and love oriented, it's beautiful, clear, activated, fierce, courageous. And yet, we've become so, what Marianne would say is like, this is the ego, right? That worships achievement, productivity, money, status at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no finish line to that. I mean, the ego is always hungry. She said, she was laughing because she said, you think getting on Oprah like me is going to satisfy your ego's craving. You're out of your mind. Because, of course, I felt great for 15 minutes. And then the week afterwards said, well, she didn't invite me back again.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Lovely ego.
Right? Like it is ruthless. It is ruthless. And she teaches a lot about the Course in Miracles, which says the ego speaks first and speaks loudest.
Yep.
So isn't it amazing? I think it's just absolutely amazing that any of us as women are where we are. We've got ego working against us. We've got our brains, which are just braining all the time and trying to keep us safe from saber-toothed tigers.
Yep.
And we have a culture that is has no idea how to handle the feminine.
Right.
Or a woman in her power. And yet, here we are.
Yeah.
It's like so awe-inspiring.
Yeah, it is. Well, I know in your book, and it's part of what you're even talking about in our conversation now, that you walk women through, because I read the one, who the fuck am I to be a coach? And you've got a whole kind of system for people, because it really is for the women. It's the both and to be the magic maker, be the light worker, be the healer, and be able to support yourself and your family.
That's it.
Versus being the starving artist, because also a mindset of like, we just kind of keep reinventing the wheel. It's like, well, you can't ever make money. You can't ever survive it or get through. Well, you're greedy if you make money, or you're selfish if you do this. And part of what you talk about in your steps, and what I also do with my clients, is so much of the work. Yes, the practical is really important, because coaching school, therapy schools, grad schools don't teach the business side. You definitely need to know the practical. And it's also about going within and getting really kind of curious and exploring some of those mindsets that come up. And you talk quite a bit, again, about women finding their voices. And I know that's a common theme for a lot of women I work with, that fear of, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, as the saying goes.
Right.
Or, maybe they're not going to like what I'm going to say. And I know I've, struggled with that at different times. Like, oh, somebody's not going to like this. I'm going to push it too much.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you support the women, or what are some of the things besides the getting up on stage? Which again, I think I just love it, because it's like, heck yeah, that's going to boost your confidence, because you're like, I did this. Oh my gosh.
Right. That's right.
What are some other things that you help really kind of support women, again, going more to the feminine side of it versus all the doing, but really embracing that their voice matters? How do you help them work through some of that?
The feminine piece of it is where, first you have to understand what the feminine is. The feminine is not about man or woman, as you know.
Correct.
And so we want to make sure everyone understands that the feminine is an energetic quality, as is the masculine. And so the qualities of the feminine are about pleasure. They're about receiving. They are about connecting and nurturing. They are about being penetrated. They are creative, intuitive, illogical, chaotic, outrageous, like wild, deeply knowing, soft, restful. So, and some men are so beautifully, like my partner is so tuned into his feminine side. We often joke like he's more feminine than I am and I'm more masculine. And that role goes back and forth, but we really see that and own that. So there are a lot of men who really know how to live these energies, but most women really suck at it. So we go week by week leading up to the concert, or in this case, like I'm doing an 8-week virtual that's coming up to sort of support people through this weird pandemic quarantine time. There will be specific practices where you are making these energies a discipline. A discipline. Now we know how to do that because discipline is masculine. So it's sort of
Yep.
confusing. So it's like, so I'm going to use my very well trained discipline muscles to like take a break and do a little bit of yoga. I'm like, yes,
Uh-huh.
yes. And then I'm going to take like maybe a bubble bath or just sit and read read a good book while I have a yummy drink, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll have a dance break or like a self pleasure break, which could be orgasmic or not. Just like I'm
Yep.
going to touch my own skin, or maybe I will get together with my lover and have some feel good in my body. And you can imagine, probably your listeners can too, but it's remarkable how confronting and how difficult that is, because for the ego and for all of us who live in a culture that worships productivity
Mm-hmm.
and working harder, faster,
Mm-hmm.
to pause feels like dangerous.
Yeah.
It feels dangerous. It feels threatening. It feels sinful. It feels wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unnatural to not pause, right? Like if we were
Correct.
just in eternal summer, we'd all be dead.
Right.
If there were no rainy days, right? It's a rainy day right now. Like, what a beautiful rainy day. Like, we need rainy days. We need rain.
Mm-hmm.
we need, it's not, we need to inhale and we need to exhale. We need both. So, women come to me all the time saying, is it okay to rest? Is it okay to just stop? Is it
Yeah.
okay to take a break? It's like, what an insane question.
Yeah. But that's the message of no, you need to keep pushing, you need to keep forcing, you need to keep, hustling, whatever words you want to use. And it's
Right.
like, but there is a season for everything. And
Right.
if we don't pause, then that's burnout. And you even talk about, which I know is very common. It's another thing I talk a lot with women of the give and the receive. Well, I can
Yeah.
give out compliments and I can, praise other people and I can raise them up, but wow, and it comes back my way. Eek! I don't know what to do with that.
I
So
know.
we deflect it, defend
Right.
it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what we do? I'll just give you this little gift right now, because a lot of the work of Rockstar it's based on a lot, it's like none of the stuff we're doing is new, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's just tell the truth. So it's a combination of so many things I've learned in different teachers. A lot of the practices come from the School of Womanly Arts,
Mm-hmm.
which is based in New York City, but a global organization run by a woman named Regina Thomashower, who's also goes by Mama Gina.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, she is an author, and teacher. So check her out if you haven't already. But one of the things we do when receiving a compliment, because some of your listeners might be like, well, no, I'm super woke. I got it. I know. I
Mm-hmm.
know that when someone gives me a compliment, I say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do the like, oh, this old thing, like, oh, it's too tight and I got it at Goodwill and I wish I was just, all the things we do.
Yep.
But she ups the ante to say, you say, thank you, it's true.
Ooh.
So if I said, Nicole, your work is so brilliant. You're such a genius interviewer. You are so committed to taking women higher. You say,
Thank you. It's true.
isn't that good?
It is. It's so funny. As you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can literally feel my chest and throat start to tighten. I'm like, I have to add that. It's true. But I'm like, it is true. I really like this. Yes.
That's the deal. That's it. That's the moment.
Yeah.
Your throat tightens.
Yeah.
There's a reason the voice is in the throat chakra.
Yep.
The area of our expression in the world.
Yeah.
Our truth telling. The truth is, it is true that you are those things.
Mm-hmm.
But the ego wants to strangle you.
Yes.
For admitting it. Your spirit, though, but your spirit knows it is true.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I think that's what really, when I heard your interview with another podcaster, what so struck me was I think it's so beautiful to be able to do it in the way that you do this with your women, through the singing or through getting out there more. And then again, with the other smaller groups that you're doing too, that there's so much power in that, because it really, if we stay stuck in, I don't want to be seen or heard, or it really scares me, or who am I to put myself out there? It's like, again, the world can't receive your gift and you will be the starving artist, and it reinforces that belief. So it's self-sabotage, but people need you. And so it's finding that voice in the way that it works for you, building up your confidence. And it literally is, I like to say, in a way, it's like breaking free or smashing through some of these old daggone beliefs that just, it's like they're outdated. They're so outdated.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we need all the healers and light workers and magic makers in the world that we can get to help make changes.
Agreed.
Yeah, truly.
Agreed. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I love what you do and how you so easily just blend both the masculine and the feminine together as you're even talking. Because I know for some people, if I talk about kind of spirituality and that, there's I'm not too sure. And it's like, you're like, oh, it's the throat chakra. Oh, it's this. It's there's just such an ease with it, which I love.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's just how I see the world.
Right. Yeah. And again, that's, to me, that is the blending. And I think it's not one or the other. It's not only the feminine or only the masculine or only the spiritual or only the non-spiritual. It really is the both. And we've got to,
you got it.
Yeah. Get rid
and
of
let's be honest, if we just hung out in the feminine,
right,
nothing would get done.
Right.
We just like
right.
dance around and like hug each other and take naps and like dream of a world, So it is that. It is that sacred balance.
I love it. I love it. Mm-hmm. Well, Megan Jo, I'd like to find out a little bit. How do you work through when you have moments? Because I know you share quite a bit in your book. Again, the importance of feeling the feelings and moving through them. So these days, how do you, when you're starting to feel vulnerable or you've got a fear that's coming up, what are some of the things that you do to practice that self-care and so that you can move through it? What are some things that you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do the things I teach, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's what healers do. I think that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone's here to heal and to heal others. Just some of us respond to the call a little bit more enthusiastically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I do the practices that I teach. So I make pleasure, discipline in my routine, even if I don't feel like it. So
I like that. Say that again. You make pleasure part of your routine, even if you
don't feel like it.
Yes.
It's almost like, especially if you don't feel like it.
Yes.
Like that's when you need it most. Like, I have so much to do. My to-do list. Oh my God. I know it says here, like, take bubble bath, but I can't do it. It's like, that's when you like stop, drop, and bubble bath.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard, y'all. Okay. So I make pleasure priority. Prayer is a very regular practice to me throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So if I really feel the grip of anxiety and overwhelm, which I, as all others on planet Earth right now, happened a lot, especially in the first couple weeks of quarantine, where I could see so much. I had my business mapped out for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that whole plan crumble before me. And then what does that mean for my finances? What does it mean for my relationship? What does it mean for my 7-year-old daughter who's now not going to school? What does it mean for my elderly parents? All the things that everybody is living with. So prayer is a great comfort for me, because prayer is when we can reconnect to the Holy Spirit that connects us to the divine, to seeing beyond circumstance, so that we can have a miraculous sight, a new way of seeing things. Right. So it's like, oh, there's so much chaos here. And then maybe if I pray, I might see. I mean, I just do. It's like, I'm safe. Yeah. Even if I die, I'm safe.
Yep.
I'm financially safe. This is an opportunity. This is going to grow me. This is going to refine me. This is going to take me to a new place. And then, I love what Marianne said. You'll know that you're having a Holy Spirit kind of thought because you'll feel peace.
Yeah.
You'll feel peaceful.
Yep.
So anything that's not a peaceful feeling is a misalignment of thought. What else do? I have temper tantrums on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I put on music, and music is a way that and I teach this to my rock stars too, that I connect to my deep emotions. So instead of like denying that I'm pissed off and frustrated or really grieving, I actually crank the heat way up. So I'll put on some sad music. I'll roll around on the floor, sob.
Yep.
I'll put on some ragey, like heavy metal. I'll scream into pillows, pound cushions. I'll just have a real all-out temper tantrum, and then I'll always end it with a little, pleasure music, happy music, turned on music, so that I can really reconnect to my radiant center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I have an amazing man. I have who really listens to me and supports me no matter what, and a huge community of women that I can lean into. And I actually have a very small community of sisters, not by blood. Well, technically by DNA, we are all sisters. So I love that you call this soul-filled sisterhood, and I love that you greet people as sister. And this is something I know you talk about a lot, but we cannot underestimate the critical need for sisterhood at this time in history, because we will not build the new world without it.
Right.
So those women, and I'm talking 3 other women, it's a very small sort of pod of women who I can go to, because I can't really do it with my clients so much, but I can go to and fall apart, and I can go to them and say, I'm really scared. I'm freaked out. I'm pissed off. I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
Or if they stop hearing me for a little while, they'll reach, what's going on? Where you been? You doing your pleasure practices? They will. Sometimes our heads are so far up our asses that we need a sister to reach out and remind us of who we are.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I remember even as a teenager, I've always had women in my life, and I found that my female friendships have just been vital. And I know for some people I've worked with over the years, there's often been, I have more men friends than women friends.
Absolutely.
And it's like, don't underestimate the power of really good, healthy sisters in your life, whether DNA or not DNA related. Yeah. Because man, you get those that support you and you support them. It is just amazing to hold one another and help one another, and have that created safety that is put there. So
it's probably the most profound shift in my existence, because I was like those women too.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. Most of the women who come to Rockstar Camp say, the scariest part of this experience is being in a cohort with 9 other women.
Wow.
And being vulnerable with them and trusting them. Because we aren't taught to see each other as sisters.
Right.
We're taught to see each other as competition.
Yeah.
And a threat. And we've been hurt by women, and we've hurt other women.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's, I so totally get it.
Yeah.
But when you make that shift in perspective, it is actually one of the most miraculous things. I swear to you that it was like, I felt like I was on a different planet.
I was just going to say the world opened up, didn't it? Yeah.
It's like not even the world. Yes, I love that image, but it's like I actually felt like I was not on the planet I was on before, because suddenly when I see women now, I just think they're amazing. Yep. Like, and especially if they've got like dirty hair and like just sweatpants and a fucking muffin top. And it's like, yeah, girl.
Yep.
I see you. You're amazing. I see the goddess in her. Yep. And it's changed everything. It's allowed me to see myself that way too, right?
Beautiful. Oh, Oh, I know, Megan Joe. I could have more. This conversation could last for hours, but I also
know,
want to be
it's so
conscious of
good.
the time too. So I
It's
just
so
want to
good.
say, yeah, thank you for being on. And ladies, if you want to find out more about Megan Joe, her website, again, will be in the show notes, but it's rockstarcamp.live. And she's got her social media links will be in there too. And please, 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 under the little link that I'll have her free gift, her free book, it's beacoachbook.com. Check it out, download it, read it. It is just amazing. And so, Megan Joe, truly, thank you for being on today. Thank you so much for how you show up in our world and helping so many women just be the rock star that they are and how you're making a difference on our planet. I just love it. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. If you haven't already, I invite you to go out to iTunes and please leave an honest rating and review. In the podcast world, this really helps other women find the podcast and they can see if it resonates with others out there. So I really appreciate all your support and leaving me a rating.